Welcome to Emotional Sobriety, the next step in recovery, with Dr. Alan Berger and Tom Rutledge.
And there's like this band called The Frames that I guess there's this Irish musician was in The Frames. And they made a movie called Once, and it was kind of like a big deal at the time. You remember that?
Are you saying once?
Once,
Like
yeah.
in one time?
My friend showed me this film like a year ago, a really good romantic movie. But anyway, the guy died from a motorcycle accident, I guess. That was like in the news today. He's like the main actor from the movie died in a motorcycle accident. And I was like, poor guy. Motorcycles are something I've always kind of felt a romantic connection to, but I know that I can never ride them because they're so dangerous.
My father, when he was much younger, long before I came along, he was in Albuquerque, New Mexico. He was a motorcycle racer. He raced motorcycles. His line was always, "You don't crash the motorcycle until you're comfortable driving it."
Wow.
He says, so don't, so the moment you have confidence, it's like, that's when you're in trouble. And if you think about it, that's the truth about most anything.
I mean, that's the appeal of drugs, really. It's like that illusion of having arrived somewhere and that sense of security, that is just total. And at least as long as the load lasts.
Yeah, good. I'm safe here. It's
So I thought we'd begin with a nutshell. It's a short one, but I think it's very potent. And Tom sent it to us yesterday. Don't make the mistake of thinking that you have no impact in this world of ours. You do. So first from the author, what prompted you to write this?
It's so important. Early on, I wouldn't have known the relevance to me, but I do know because you talk to people all the time, and it's like, and we sell ourselves so short. We listen to those inner critics so much, sell ourselves to the point where thinking that, it seems exaggerated, but it's almost like you don't count, and it's like one of the things I've just become aware of in living life is that this ripple effect that we talk about so often. It's like it doesn't matter what size pebble we are. We're or giant rock. We're all leaving ripples in the pond, and we get to choose what kind of ripples we leave.
Everyone's ripple hits me. There's a childhood friend that we had. Me and my friends group, we got together over the weekend. For my friend's bachelor weekend, and then yesterday, in the group text that we were using for the bachelor weekend, my buddy sends a news article that one of our friends who was not present, and then we were actually talking about him when we all got together. We were just like, I wonder what happened to him. We were all drug kids, so we were concerned that maybe his life had taken a negative turn, and it turns out he hung himself like a year ago.
No.
And but his ripples, touched us. And, I have many fond memories of him. I was tapping into kind of like memories when I was like 21 or 22 years old, like vivid ones I could remember having with him. And I texted my buddy about it this morning, like 24 hours later, because I was still thinking about it. And I was just like, God, what a shame, what a waste, that he's not still here with us. I'm glad that we're still here. And he was just like, you know what? I wish that I had reached out to him over the years. I wish that I'd called him. But, he mattered. And he, at the time that he took his own life, I'm sure that he thought the opposite.
Well, we can't. That's what I was going to say. I always want to do the disclaimer that I can't know what anybody is thinking. But my instinct is not knowing your friend or anything. But at a time like that, is just because I felt this for our mutual friend Chris Allen that took his own life. It's like, I just want to say to those people, you matter, you really matter, and maybe that's not the thing they need to hear, but it's the thing I want to say to them, like you said.
What this reminds me of, and I think it is so relevant to emotional sobriety, because if I don't feel like I matter, what's going to happen is my dependency on other people to validate me is going to be increased. I'm going to be more dependent, right, on other
Right.
people. And when we say we matter, it's in terms of our own relationship with ourselves that this begins with. And when I don't think I matter, then I am going to look for other people to validate my existence. And I can see that. I mean, when, the lower self-esteem we have, the more we are dependent on approval or afraid of the disapproval of other people. Because, if they disapprove of us, then they're agreeing with us. See, that's the problem. We don't have much of an opinion of ourselves. And where does that come from? Well, man, I'll tell you, it's not even so much of what's said to you when you're growing up. It's just how you're treated. People don't have to say you're not worthy. And parents don't realize sometimes that some what they think is innocent behavior, like, let's say, just being too helpful with one of your kids, trying to do everything for them, it sends the tacit message you're not capable of taking care of yourself. And that's, Kempler used to call that, Tom. It was an interesting way that he described it, called it the crimes of love. He
Oh, I
says
love that.
sometimes kindness like that can be very, very damaging. And we don't think of kindness like this as something that could be hurtful. But if you're anticipating the needs of the other person and always, always taking care of them, then they don't learn how to act on their own behalf.
We need to be checking in with how these things are being received, regardless of whether we intend it or not. That's what gets encoded.
I think I've just kind of finally started to notice my intrinsic value, and I think it comes as a consequence of I'm just looking at myself in the third person, and I'm like, I haven't killed myself yet. I haven't, foregone my sobriety. I'm kind of still standing, and more than that, it's not so much that I'm receiving validation from other people, but more like I'm surrounded by people that I really love and admire. And I can just feel this like concrete connection with them, that is something that I can tell that's been cultivated over time. I just feel like it's taken me 40 years to finally to feel that sense of it. You're talking about, Allen, and Thom, of mattering and that intrinsic value.
The three of us in particular, I think one of the things that we do we have in common is we always want to ground all this stuff in reality as best we can. I thought this has some humor to it, but it's actually the truth too. How I interpreted what you got there was, so I'm going to do. I get up, just get past 40, and you're going to take an inventory, and it starts with two. I'm not drunk, and I'm not dead. It's like so. The good news. There's good news so far. Let's keep going.
If I can keep the bar subterranean, then that's going to be good. Yeah.
Well, Allen and I talk about that all the time. Lower that bar.
Lowering that bar is important. Man.
That's right. Yeah, because really all we're doing is bringing it down to reality. It's like and one thing is we should, there's not a thing wrong with spending a day being extremely grateful that we're not drunk and we're not dead.
We also don't know who we're affecting and how, or who we matter to and how. It goes both ways, and that's something to keep in mind.
What the three of us have in common is, among other things, we influence people professionally. Alan, tell me if this is true for you though. But but it's never the way you think. It's like that Irv Yalom's book where his client wrote down what she experienced in the session, and he wrote down, and they never matched up. He always wrote all these brilliant insights he was having, and she just wrote stuff like, "You were really kind and accepting to me." It's really nice. We get a chance to hear people say, "You guys make a difference," and I hear it all the time for all three of us.
Yeah, it was especially fun to hear that in Ireland when we visited. There's people across the ocean that listen to us and get something out of it. It's interesting. On July 28th, in Joe's Beyond Belief book, there was a Marcus Aurelius quote, which I'll just read to you because I'm going to read the other one when Allen gets back. Okay. Live a good life. If there are gods and they are just, then they will not care how devout you have been, but will welcome you based on the virtues you have lived by. If there are gods, but unjust, then you should not want to worship them. If there are no gods, then you will be gone, but will have lived a noble life that will live on in the memories of your loved ones. I am not afraid.
I love it. If that mean God, the one who wants to send me to hell, if that mean God is the God, if my value system is intact, I'm not going to worship that guy anyway.
Or for the Romans, right? They had all different types of gods to kind of, you know, there was a gallery of goodies and baddies in there to explain their predicament.
Goodies and baddies.
This is from Joe's Beyond Belief. When you talk about differentiation, Allen, I think this can pertain. Nearly all human activity is programmed by an ongoing script dating from early childhood, so that the feeling of autonomy is nearly always an illusion which is the greatest affliction of the human race, because it makes awareness, honesty, creativity, and intimacy possible for only a few fortunate individuals. For the rest of humanity, other people are seen mainly as objects to be manipulated, persuaded, seduced, bribed, or forced into playing the proper roles to reinforce the protagonist's position and fulfill his or her script. Who are these others? Narcissism and addiction are often synonymous with each other. Seeing others as individuals separate from our needs and our agendas is essential for contentment. When we are in a healthy mental state, our parents, children, siblings, lovers, co-workers, and fellow members are separate individuals. A healthy understanding of their roles in our lives and our role in theirs guides our interdependent relationships. We see the boundaries. Some lines we created and are mindful of what these lines symbolize. Other lines are boundaries drawn by others, which we respect. Either way, we don't look at people as things to control or avoid being controlled by, to use or be used by, etc. They say that the AA meeting is where all the laughing happens, and that the Al-Anon meeting is where the crying happens. The addict has the illness, but the loved ones show the symptoms. Codependents are encouraged to go to AA meetings or others once a week to understand addiction. Addicts are well served to go to the co-addict meetings from time to time to understand the damage done to others. Have I been seeking love and happiness with neither a sense of my own identity nor healthy boundaries between myself and those around me? Can I see the futility of chasing control? Do I harbor hidden agendas when I'm with the people closest to me? Can I now relate to these people with healthy inclusion and separation? How has my illness made other people suffer? How can I be more mindful in how I treat others today?
I had never heard that. The AA is where the laughter is, and Al-Anon where the tears are. It's like, God, that hits hard.
It makes me feel almost entitled to be indulging in AA, you know, like not an Al-Anon, and like, you know, maybe I'm missing out.
Right, like we're one more time we're getting away with something.
Yeah, I mean, one of my favorite emotional sobriety bits is, you know, standing for yourself without erasing the needs of others or minimizing the needs of others, and being there for others without erasing yourself.
You know, it's unfortunate that AA gets characterized that way and Al-Anon gets characterized that way because, like Thom said, it's pretty much a stereotype, and it's not true. There's plenty of tears in AA meetings when you go to certain meetings, and there's plenty of laughter in Al-Anon meetings because, you know, recovery is about recovering the joy of living. And the joy of living doesn't mean things are good all the time. Sometimes the joy of living is learning how to struggle with an issue and feeling good about how you struggle with it. That's the joy of living too. So joy does not always equal happiness. It means just feeling good about how you're showing up and living your life. So it's Eric Berne was the father of transactional analysis.
Yeah. The games people play.
Eric Berne. That's right. Thomas Harris wrote "I'm Okay, You're Okay," which was a popular description of Berne's work in transactional analysis.
Yep.
And you know what Berne was saying is what many people observe. You see, is that when we develop and we grow, we compromise our authenticity to be able to adapt to whatever kind of experience is going on in our family. If our family welcomes all of us, then we don't have to fracture ourselves. But if it's not okay, and it's not just our family, but our culture, what rarely does a family nor our culture or any culture really allow people to be themselves and encourage people to be themselves. So there's inevitably going to be some kind of a compromise of our personality. And when we're compromised, and this is where Thom's intrapsychic theory comes in, and Gestalt therapy comes in, and IFS today is very popular, is that when we get so fragmented, the parts of us are no longer working towards our wholeness. They become in conflict. And when they get in conflict is when we start to really struggle. The greater the conflict, the greater the anxiety we have, the more we're, as William James called it, the more we're torn to pieces. And that's a hell of a spot to be in. And how do you deal with being torn to pieces? Well, there's a lot of ways to try to escape that. I mean, we avoid it. We don't want to feel it. And that's kind of what was saying, is that there are a lot of people in AA that do avoid facing the pain that they've caused in their families.
Yeah.
And that's why steps 8 and 9 become so important, is they're really about taking responsibility for the impact that we've had on other people and what we've, the pain and suffering that we brought into their lives. Now, we're not fully responsible for that, because those people are not, as Thom likes to say, nobody's a victim here.
Right.
Even though they are victimized by disease just like we are, but they don't know how to deal with it any better than us. So in one way, we're all victims, which means nobody's a victim, I guess. But the understanding of taking that responsibility for ourselves.
But Al-Anon, they have the 8th and 9th step too. It's not like oh, we're the ogres who do all the damage. Now I won't argue that we don't do lots, but it's like,
listen,
there's so much more to it.
When somebody responds to their anxiety by trying to control the other person, they're essentially throwing gasoline on the fire.
Absolutely.
I mean, because it turns into this whole thing about power struggle, about who's going to be in control. You and I have both seen that many times the codependent person can be as sick, if not sicker, than the person that's struggling with.
Right. And those are addictions, and that can, that's one of the reasons I love the fact that we have the focus now on emotional sobriety, because it's an umbrella that has room for all kinds of addictions. We all have a place here.
Everybody struggle.
Yeah, you don't have to have a particular addiction like a ticket at the door to get in, where they have a family where they have a addict in treatment right now. And usually when they come out of treatment, the family is kind of tend to blame everything on that addiction. It's work to get them back to get them to a place where we say, no, we all have our responsibilities.
When I made my amends to my mom, I had no idea. I think it was in the saying it and then watching her react to it, and then just kind of being with her as I stumbled through that process of accounting. I think it was only then that I knew the depth of how much she was hurt by my years of, addiction, active addiction, and all the stuff that I did. I think that was the kind of like most deeply affecting stop I had to make on the tour.
Yeah.
So
I was trying to think if there's anything else to say about this topic today, because it is such an important one. To what degree am I responsible for other people? And I like what I've heard about that. We're responsible to people, but not for them. And when I say I'm responsible to people, that means I'm responsible for creating conditions that make somebody's life difficult.
Well, to be responsible to them is actually accepting responsibility for ourselves.
That's right. A great way to say it. I've never heard anybody put it that way. And I think that captures it.
Actually, I loved when I heard you say this quite a little while ago about the two, because that was that's in my book, Earning Your Own Respect. You guys have a copy of that. It's like when I think about that, it's like, oh, great minds work alike. It's like, because that's the way I differentiated that too, because because we do need to be able, because that's what I got when I was talking about in Earning Your Own Respect was, well, we're not saying we're not going to be responsible. So how do we, but no, we're responsible to each other to show up here on Wednesday mornings. It's, and part of that is, none of us are devastated if somebody doesn't. It's like we're not responsible for each other. It's like, and how you respond to my not showing up is still your responsibility.
Yeah, I'm a little out of it today. Today was the first day I went back to one of my tennis workouts because my leg is taken over a year and a half to heal up, and I'm not 100% yet, but I thought that I'm well enough, and I checked it out with the director of tennis over at the tennis club, and he runs the workout. His name is Jim Klein, and he's one of the best coaches I've ever experienced. I've experienced a lot of tennis coaches in my lifetime, and he does this great workout on Wednesday mornings from 9 to 10:30. But I haven't been on the court for an hour and a half in over a year and a half now. So today I was on the court for an hour and a half, and I would say I wasn't 100%, but most of the time I was a solid 80% on the court. And near the end, kind of my performance degraded because my right hip started to hurt quite a bit. But it's back to Thom saying this thing about lowering our expectations. And I've really had to see that recovering from this injury, and I'm fractured my femur when I was in PT, and really delaying my recovery for a long time.
It really is like a big exam on have you been paying attention, and it's like because man, you got to adjust. It's like,
so now I go on the court. I don't expect myself to run and get every ball, and even the coach had to remind me today. Jim said, "Allen, you don't have to try for everything. You can let some of those balls bounce twice and hit them. It's okay with me." Yeah, he's even lowering the bar further because I'm going to push myself because it's this thing that we started this whole thing with. There's always a tendency in us that says, I have to be more than who I am to be okay. And see, that's the lack of self-acceptance, even in me after all this time. I have to be more. I have to get that ball to be okay. No, I was okay the minute I walked on that court today. That was a big achievement for me to get to the point after a year and a half to go there and try this thing out this morning. I had a little anxiety about it. I did when I walked out there, but I showed up, and most of the time I'm walking off feeling good and aware of this tendency. I've got to be more than I am to be okay. But the awareness of that today is different. I wouldn't have had that awareness before.
Do tell me if I'm wrong, but you certainly have made the adjustment to where you can be aware of something that you desire, that you want, but it's not encoded in you as basically your well-being or your self-esteem is dependent upon it. That difference between devastation and disappointment. When I want something and don't get it, I feel disappointed. That actually creates more motivation for you. And by the way, go back to the first of the session. If you need this when you go out there on the court, I wrote this down. Here's the bottom line. I'm not drunk and I'm not dead.
Hey, and 80% after a year and a half, if you're back at 80.
Listen, I'll tell you, I walked off today. I mean, I'm pretty spent right now. I mean, physically, I haven't put that kind of energy out consistently for an hour and a half.
You.
That's a long time. I would think you do half that.
I feel good about that. Just being able to go on the court and being able to walk off after an hour and a half and not having to stop. I couldn't have done that before. Yeah. And I'm not in that much pain right now. My hip is a little bit painful, but before the pain would have been intolerable. But, I can feel it. I'm like, I'm spent, man. I put out so much energy, and I'm just...
But having been with you through this whole thing, I remember the day you told us about when your femur got broken. It's like in physical therapy. It's like it was just. I mean, God, it was devastating. I know to you, but it was like just to hear about it. I was just like, oh my God, and that. That was a while back, but it wasn't long ago. When you think about what you're pulling off now, you worked hard for it.
One of the things that gives me hope for the human race is how much positivity people can come back with after what they've endured.
Let's stop for a minute and just inventory what we've been through the last 2 years, you guys.
Jesus.
I mean, Thom, you've gone through hell with what you've had to deal with, and Patrick, same thing. Life has been in session. I mean, we've all been in session.